everybody, Brody here from Sew Yeah Quilting. Welcome back to our channel. Today in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make this fun themed car seat cover with closing ties. So you can see here, you just pull these like this, open up, see the little one inside. With it being the holidays, this is a perfect gift for anyone that's got little ones that are in a car seat. I'm going to move this out of the way, we're going to get down to the cutting instructions, and we're going to get started. For my front accent pieces, I'm going to need two pieces that are 5 by 35 inches. For my backing, it's going to be 35 inches by 42 inches. The front piece is 35 inches by 34 inches. This right here is what are going to be the loops that hang on top of the car seat. And these are 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches and 2.5 inches by 9.5 inches. And I'll show you how those go together. And then to make the ties on top, I'm going to need 4 pieces that are 1.5 inch by 14 inches. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the ties and the straps right here on the top. And then we're going to make the actual body of the car seat cover. So the first thing that we're going to start with are the straps or the ties that are on the front of our car seat cover. So as you can see here, I already have a piece of fabric folded. So this is 1.5 inches wide. What I've done is folded it into the center, and I'll just try to show this on the top view here. Folded it into the center, and then folded it in half, just like this. Once you finish sewing it, you're going to sew it at 1/8 inch seam all the way around. You're going to fold the top piece in, or I guess the end piece, 1/4 inch, and then also do 1/8 inch seam across the top. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm going to bring it over to the machine. So as you can see here, I'm going to place this right underneath my foot, about halfway between, this is 1/4 inch foot, so about halfway between there. That'll give me my 1/8 inch. I'm going to sew all the way down each side. So I've sewed 1/8 inch down one side. I'm going to do the same thing across the other side. So I've got both sides of my tie done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the end pieces here and fold them in about 1/4 inch and sew them down. That way it doesn't fray when we're actually using it. I'm going to sew it nice and slow, and I'm also going to back stitch it just a couple of times to make sure that it really sticks. Just like that. I've finished sewing both sides lengthwise, and I've done one end here of my strap. You're not going to do the other end because that's going to get sewn inside of the actual cover, so you don't need to worry about that. So you're going to repeat that process 4 times, which will give you 4 little straps. I'm going to set these aside, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to work on these here, the actual straps of our cover. So I'm going to pull these, just slide these out of the way, and show you this here. So I'm going to take one of my pieces of fabric here, right side up, take one of the smaller pieces, right side down, and what you're going to do is you're basically going to create a tube out of this. So you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam down here. You're going to bring this over to this side and sew another 1/4 inch, and that'll make you a tube that you'll turn inside out. So I'm going to bring this over to the machine. Sew a 1/4 inch seam, and then we're going to turn it into a tube. Okay, as you can see here, now that I've sewn this piece on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take right sides together and match them like this, and sew a 1/4 inch seam down this new side here. This will create a tube, like I've said. Now what I'm going to do, now that I've got my tube here, I'm going to turn the tube inside out, like this. And then I'm going to, you can see my little stripe piece here. I'm going to make sure this is in the middle of my fabrics, like this, and I'm going to iron this flat. I'm going to take this over to my ironing board, and that's what I'm going to do. So now that I have my tube that's been pressed down, what I'm going to do is fold in each one of the edges of the tube to about 1/2 inch. So I'll try to do this under the camera so you can see. What I do is just take the seam that's been pressed at about 1/2 inch, push it down like this, and then push it together. So just like this. So once you've folded your pieces down to about a 1/2 inch in, what you're going to do is you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around this entire piece. You're also going to stitch in the ditch down both sides here to lock everything together. If you want to make it a little more decorative, what you can do is sew a 1/4 inch seam around the whole thing, and then also sew an 1/8 of an inch seam. It gives it just a little bit more flair. So I'm going to take this over to the machine now, making sure I've got my 1/2 inch. And I'm going to do that. Again, I have to fold this side down. But I'm going to do that and sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. So getting down to my end here, I'm going to fold this in. Fold this in on the other side. Again, about a 1/2 inch. Okay, got all my sides done. Now it's time for stitching the ditch. So now that I've sewn all the way around and I've done my stitch in the ditch, all I need to do is add a little piece of Velcro here and my strap for the top will be finished. You need to obviously repeat this process 2 times to have 2 different straps. That's what I'm going to do now, and then we'll be right back to make the actual body of the cover. Alright, I got both of my straps done. I'm going to set them aside. I've laid down my top fabric. I'm going to take my accent piece, put it right sides together, just like this, and then you're going to sew a 1/2 inch seam down one side. So I finished the one side here, now we're going to do the other side. Doing the exact same thing. One thing you want to be cautious of, if you have fabrics that are directional, you want to make sure, because this is going to be the front, you want to make sure that it's facing the right way and it's not upside down on your car seat. So grab this here, same thing, lay it down on top, 1/4 inch seam, excuse me, 1/2 inch seam. Okay, so I've got both of my accent pieces on. Now I'm going to go ahead and just press this open. So now the next step, I'm going to lay down my fabric here. I've got my accent on this side and accent on the bottom side. I'm going to open up my, what will be my bottom piece of fabric. And you're going to put these two together, right sides together. So now that I have both these fabrics right sides together, what I'm going to do is line them up. And I'm going to use Wonder Clips or pins and pin down this front side. This is basically just to hold things together while we're getting everything situated. So from here what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to use this fold mark here as a guide for the slit that's in the front of my car seat cover. So I'm going to measure this 19.5 inches and cut it through both pieces of material with a ruler. So I've got this measured at 19.5 inches, right down the center. I'm going to cut it. Don't go too far, just to the end. Double check and make sure you went through both pieces. Perfect, just like that. Now that I have this piece cut, what I'm gonna do is kind of just separate it a tiny bit, and I'm gonna clip both sides to hold them together. So this is gonna be the most visible portion of the project, because this is where you're gonna be tying and untying it when you're getting the baby out. So we wanna make sure this looks great. Now that everything's pinned, what we're gonna do is add in our ties. So this right here, you need to make sure you do this right or you're gonna end up missing a tie. So from the top of our slit here, you're gonna go down about 6 inches. And you're gonna put this on the inside of the fabric between the two layers, just like this. Okay, you wanna make sure that the side that you've sewn the edge piece down, is on the inside of your materials. Then you're gonna go down another 6 inches or 6 inches from the bottom, and you're gonna do the same thing like this. Again, this is gonna be inside. So I'm gonna just lay this out so you can see how this looks, and I'm gonna stick it in through the sides and match them up. That's what I'm gonna do now. So I've got this in here, just like that. I'm gonna grab this little clip, slide it over, and clip it right on top of it. Then, same thing on the other side. Match these up so they're matching, and then go ahead and clip it. I'm going to repeat this process up here on top. Now that we have our strings clipped in place, or our straps clipped in place, I'm going to take the rest of my Wonder Clips and I'm going to go all the way around and just basically clip everything in place. Alright, now that I have everything clipped, what I'm going to do is I like to start here at the top slit, where as you can see here on the camera. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew 2 or 3 stitches across the top here just to make sure it doesn't tear. And then I'm going to sew down and around, and on the back side of our cover we need to leave an opening about this long, 6 inches, to turn the whole thing inside out. So I'm going to start sewing. Again, we have our little straps on the inside here. We want to make sure that we don't move those or get those out of line. But we're going to sew everything down now. Like I said, I'm just going to sew a few stitches on this slit here to lock that down. So I've done a couple, I'm going to cut. I'm just going to move down a tiny bit and do the same thing one more time. Alright, now that my top of my slit is secured, I'm going to turn this the other direction and start sewing a 1/2 inch seam down the whole side here. So I just went over my first strap here. I'm going to back stitch a little bit just to make sure it's extra secure, and then keep going. Alright, so I've got one side done. Now what I'm going to do is start here on my other side. Do the same thing you just did before. So now I've sewn both, well, 3 sides and the front of the centerpiece here, and I just have the back open. So this entire back's open. I'm going to sew in both sides until they're about to right here. Alright, so just finished sewing all the way around. Now what we're going to do, oops, got an extra Wonder Clip stuck on there. Now what we're going to do is flip this whole thing inside out. So I've got a big enough hole in the end I can stick my arm in there. We're going to turn this all around. Alright, so I'm going to push the corners out here. And to reach all the way in to do these ones down here. You can see our ties came out great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this down flat, especially right here at the top, and I'm going to sew top stitch this top piece that we just turned everything through. Then from there, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add, somewhere over here, we're gonna add on our loops for the top of the car seat, and we'll be all finished. All right, now that I have everything pressed, we're gonna go ahead and start doing that 1/4 inch seam all the way around. Now again, right here I have this piece open that I flipped, where I flipped it through. So I'm gonna be very careful. I'm gonna start right here in the corner and then sew that close at the 1/4 inch. All right, now that my 1/4 inch seam all the way around is done, we're gonna put our straps on the top. So to add the straps on top of our car seat cover here, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna lay these down, make sure you can see them in the camera. And I'm gonna measure 3 inches from one side and 4 inches from the other. That way, you don't want it to be perfectly centered. You want, like I said, you want it to be a couple inches from the bottom, a couple from the top. And that makes sure that it'll hang straight when it's on your car seat. So I'm basically just gonna go right here at 4 inches. And then from this side, 3 inches. You're basically leaving an inch in the center. And you're gonna do that on the other one too. 4 and 3. Just like that. Now what we're going to do is sew these on top of our cover here. Make sure you do it on the right side. That's got your sleeve, your accent piece. Lay this down here. You can also iron it. That way you can get all the little puckers out. But you're going to put this, like I said, about 1.5 inches down from here and about 10 inches from the side. I'm going to set this here. I'm going to measure, and then I'm going to go ahead and take it over to the machine and sew. So I'm basically going to sew 2 or 3 times down each side to make sure that it holds really stiff, and that way, because that's what's holding all the weight of your cover. So I'm going to do that now. So I've done that. I'm going to go down to my next mark here, which is 1 inch away, and do the same thing. So I just finished sewing on the straps to my car seat cover, and it's now complete. As always, if you've liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. We're going to leave instructions on how to make this project in the description below. My name is Brody, teaching you how to sew like a pro. We'll see you next week at Sew Yeah Quilting.